What's up, everybody? Welcome to an episode of Dave's Man Cave / Dave's Garage. I really wish I'd been able to secure the name for the website as Dave's Garage, because I use that label for some of my segments when I'm working in the garage. But unfortunately, that channel name was already picked. So, Dave's Man Cave it is. But I am in the 2024 C8 Corvette 1LT in cacti green, and I am 15 miles away from that dashboard. See where the red line starts at 3,500? Yeah, of course that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's where the red line starts now, and it's pulling about 30% torque and softening engine response, all that kind of stuff, to force you to break in the motor slowly. Not sure why this particular car needs it, but the folks that built it feel that it does. Most cars, they just have a break-in procedure that's, and bikes that have been in the manuals since the 70s and 80s, and the corporate lawyers just make them keep it there, even though a lot of motorcycles, which are very high performance, obviously, high strung, to be pulling 100, 200 horsepower out of a 1 liter motor, that's a very high strung motor. And a lot of those motors are on the dyno before they leave the damn factory, so. But for some reason, with this car, they're like, we mean it. Break it in slow. It's like, alright. And they physically limit the power just to keep you from dicking around too much. But we're about to get past all that. I've got steering in sport, brakes are in sport, exhaust note is in track, which means the active exhaust is open. Behind the car, it's loud. It is not loud in the cabin. Like, my Mustang was so much louder. And the Mustang may have been louder in the back too, because it was, when you put it in track mode, it had cats, but that giant 40-pound box underneath was gone. And when you put the active exhaust in track, it bypasses a bypass valve that makes it a straight pipe. So you have cats, and other than that, it's a straight exhaust from the cat's back. And it was rowdy, very, very rowdy. But also you got the motor in front, you got the exhaust running underneath you, then it outlets out the back, and you tended to hear and feel it more. Here, because the motor, I've got that 6.2 liter LT2 cranking out gobs of torque and 495 horsepower, and it's sitting back there, so there's no exhaust running underneath. Corvette. And so with no exhaust running underneath, and the fact that it is still, even though it's their performance exhaust from the factory, it's only like a $1,400 upgrade. It's not like having a Borla or, nice aftermarket exhaust. But that's okay, because it's really loud when you open the windows, fairly loud. If you're behind the car and you rev it, it startles people. It's very loud for a stock exhaust. But in the car, you can actually have a conversation. When I was vlogging in the Mustang, if I put it in track mode, you really didn't hear me. I had to kind of shout, and typically it would just drown out my audio, and so I would put it in quiet mode to get decent audio out of it. But anyway, we are at 487 miles. When we hit 500, shortly thereafter, we should see a change in the dash. And if it doesn't, then there's something where you just shut the car off, open the door, close the door, and let it sit for 15 minutes, and it'll do it. But we'll see if it does it on the fly. And if it does, that means we're ready for the ripping and the tearing. Don't get excited, Cameron. Or Johnny. Johnny's watching now too. Cameron, you got competition, yo. I'll have to split my affections between you and now Johnny. Now Cameron's gonna be like, who's this Johnny? Jelly. And now shit, Johnny's gonna be like, who's this Cameron I keep hearing about? It's good to keep them both wondering. Like a midget at a urinal, you guys are gonna have to stay on your toes. without Googling, get that reference. Anyway, so I'm going to prattle on for a little bit and talk about the car as I try to get to that 500 number. I think, well, by the time I get to the top of Blood Mountain, it would be done. But I think I want to go over to Suchess. I want to go to TWI. I'd rather eat there than Turner's Corner. And they're probably buddies of mine up there. So that should get me to about the 500 mile mark. So I'm going to do that. And we'll take this through some twisties, because I do want to describe how this thing feels. I haven't really played in the twisties yet. I've kept most of my driving in town because it was just like at lunch, after work. I'm just kind of wanting to go in and... But I will say, man, the steering on this thing... All right. I hate when my dad's right, as all kids do. And you know, as you're growing up, your parents are right most of the time. Because they have the benefit of experience. And while my dad and I still butt heads a few times here and there, not in a bad way, but you know, we definitely have some disagreements. And it's like, well, yes, he's older and still dad, but, you know, I'm 51 years old, guys. It's like, you know, what made dad wise growing up was that he was 30, then 40, then 50 years and had experience. Well, now I actually have that experience too. And sometimes the world and technology or whatever things, society, things change. And so things that even if he was right at the time may not be anymore. Well, we've been going back and forth on, is the Mustang a sports car? I contend that it is. Now, obviously, it's at a different end of the spectrum than a Vette. You know, it's basically a two-seater. He's like, well, it can't be a sports car because it has back seats. I'm like, well, so does a Porsche 911. You didn't have an answer for that. Because the quintessential sports car is the Porsche 911. Doesn't have four doors, but it's got two little mini back seats. Unless you're getting a GT2 or GT3 RS or GT4 RS now, that's got the scaffolding. But the standard 911 and 911 Turbo have back seats. So that's not the qualification. It's not, well, it's got to have independent suspension instead of a truck axle. Well, I think after the S197, someone will correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe the S197 model of the Mustang was the first to have independent rear suspension. And that really took the handling because it was never really a muscle car like the big Dodges were. It was always, it was never in the league of the Corvette, but it sat in between the muscle car. And it had its own category. It was the pony car. But I think over the years, as the Mustang did actually get better, they did go into independent rear suspension, started getting serious horsepower, electronic damping, Brembo brakes. And they'll run circles around the Dodge. Not so much the Camaro. The Camaro's actually got a really good chassis. But I've been contending that the Mustang absolutely today, the S550 and now the S660 series, or X650, are absolutely sports cars. They're not muscle cars. The Dodge, the Chargers and Challengers, those are. Another Vette, get on your side of the line, minivan. So anyway, I've been like, yeah, we've been going back and forth good naturedly. I still think he's wrong. I think it's not as good of a sports car as the Corvette. It is absolutely a sports car, the Mustangs. Especially when you get Mach 1s, the Performance Pack, the Dark Horse. It's GT350, GT500. Like the GT350R was a legitimate track weapon. And his response was always, well, yeah, but the Corvette's bad. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying it's a better sports car than, but to say, well, it's not as good as the Corvette, so it's not even in the category. It's no. This thing, the handling on this is so different. I I get what he's saying, and he's right in this case, that the Mustang cannot hold a candle to this. And we're not talking GTD 800s or sports cars with, you know, a Mustang body kit. Just off the shelf, off the showroom floor type cars. The way that this thing corners, and I'm on run flats on a cold day, there's leaves out, but the back end of this thing is just so, just stuck. Now in some ways, here's where I'll critique. This isn't even, again, I'm still in reduced power mode. Not that I'm setting any lap records here, but this is absolutely a faster car than the Mustang, the 22 Performance Pack that I had. 0 to 60 time, once this thing's unlocked, if we're on like hot pavement, got decent traction, 4.4 best case for the Mustang, 2.9 best case for this. That is worlds apart. That's almost down to Nissan GTR territory. In a V8, you know, American sports car that doesn't have all-wheel drive. And so traction is why. When we're doing a roll, I've gone up in my Mustang against C8s. They would pull away from me on the highway, not by a whole lot. Like, by the time they were like more than a couple car lengths, we'd gone a mile or a half a mile, and we were coming up on traffic and slowed down. So basically, I was sticking with them within a couple car lengths up to like 145 miles an hour. It was, but off the line, I am not even in the ballpark of a C8 in that Mustang. And it's all because of traction. 495 horsepower versus 465, whatever that thing was making with the slight mods and the X-pipe and stuff. I'm making a couple horsepower more than stock. You're not talking that much of a horsepower difference to account for a 1.5 second difference, 0 to 60. In the world of 0 to 60 times, especially the lower you go, a 1.5 second difference to 60, going from 4.4 to 2.9, is light years. While a lot of motorcycles, sport bikes, are rated for 0 to 60 in 2.7, 2.8, most people can't do that. You need to be Chris Moore, and you need to really, you know what you're doing, because those leader bikes, of which I have 2, are, got some bikes behind me. Those leader bikes are notoriously hard to launch, because you're either going to flip yourself off, or you're going to have the traction control and wheelie control cutting in. Is bonkers in the turns. I'm not even really pushing. Sorry, once I start like driving and paying attention, I forget to talk. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I'm long-winded and verbose. I've been told I like to hear myself talk. Crazy when you're doing instructional videos or doing a podcast that you do a lot of talking. Oh well. Just shout. That's why I hate fucking cyclists. Get out of the goddamn road. Now what sucks is that I'm going to want to stop up here, and I may not have that 500 mile mark, so I may have to wait till we go through Wolfpit Gap or something, or I'll go back down the mountain over to Richard Russell. I'm not sure, or to Blood Mountain. I'm not 100% sure if TWO is open for the season. I know they close at some point, even on weekends. But I will tell you, man, the where my dad was spot on. You know, from a dig, this is going to blow away the Mustang. It has the traction. all that engine weight sitting on the back wheels. It's like the Porsche 911. A lot of cars made way more power than the Porsche, but it was light, and what weight it did have was sitting over the back axle, mashing those tires into the pavement, so that instead of wheel spin, it would just hook up. That's why the Dodges aren't that fast. Yeah, you got the 1070 and you got the Demons and stuff, and if you lower the tire pressure and you got the drag radials and you do all the, and you're on a prepped surface and you properly heat the tires, yeah, they're stupid fast in a straight line. You're not going to get that out on the road on street tires on a day that's only 56 degrees. That Hellcat will sit there spinning and consuming its tires. It'll look amazing, you know, with a big cloud of smoke and that giant V8 bellowing. And meanwhile, a car with 2/3 the power is going to go poof and just be gone. But the way this thing just turns in, there's no body roll. It just sits there and goes like a gun. I mean, it feels, I mean, the closest car I've driven that had that sort of just point it and squirt through the turn, just boom, 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 where it just sat flat and just did its thing, was a Mini Cooper S. Little turbo with some sticky tires. That's the only thing I've ridden, oh yeah, I guess driven, that was like that. So we're at 496 miles. So we're going to be shutting off. And I'm going to go in and talk to some people. We will be back, and we're going to hit that 500 mile mark and see what that feels like. So we'll be back in just a bit, folks. I thought I would hit 500 before we got here and we could see that dash change. We'll be back. All right, everybody. 496 miles. Stopped, talked to some people. Although none of my people were there today. But so we're gonna hit 500 miles going down this mountain, which means we should all be good to go by the time, you know, when I'm over at Blood Mountain and want to play a little bit. A little bit, because there's usually tons of cops up there, so I'm not going to go too crazy. Just want to see that dashboard change. So we're on 60. We were just in Suchess, in 2 wheels only. It's a used motorcycle place up here. Everybody hangs out. They got a little campground. You can do motorcycle and tent camping and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to go up and over the mountain, go down 60 to the rock pile, make a left onto 129. It'll take us to Turner's Corner, make another left, and that will take us to... where's it going to take us? Take us up Blood Mountain. We'll go up to the top and I'll either come back down or we'll go over to 180, maybe to Richard Russell, over to Helen and down, or we could do, I don't know. We'll see what time it is, see what I feel like doing. Yeah, the way this thing just glides around these turns is just unreal. What I like about this is it's very smooth, but it's not like, it's a strange setup. Well, not strange. To me, it's a unique kind of feeling of what I've really driven before, in that usually you get the sport tuned suspension kind of thing, and it's like, it's rough. It's good on the racetrack, but in the real world where there's reflectors and things and stuff in the pavement, and potholes and tar snakes and rocks and shit. Let's go slow through here because you never know what's going to happen. Anyway, you know, so the car that's good in those environments, the suspension, tends to be really kind of harsh and unforgiving and not really good just as a daily. That's where the Magna Ride suspension comes into play, because then you got the best of both worlds, right? it knows what to do, and you put it in a certain, you know, mode, and it's like, okay, you're touring, you want to be soft. Got it. 498. And stuck behind some slow Harleys. Minivan, don't you dare fucking pull out in front of me. So, 499, folks. Keep your eyes on that dash. Hopefully it changes. Hopefully my shoulder's not blocking it. I don't think it is. Just trying to figure out the right angle. Luckily, this thing's got this perfectly vertical window, this piece of glass, where your back seat would normally be, and that lets you look into the engine compartment. It's a perfect place to put a GoPro to give you the cockpit shot so you can see everything that's going on, the controls and where I got my stuff set up, and see a bit out in front. Now normally you go, well, it's blocking what little view you have out the back. Aha! Hold on. LCD screen. So here I am looking at, there's a camera on the back of the car, and it projects the signal into here. And I can zoom in, zoom out, I can raise the angle, turn the brightness up and down to suit my needs. And it's actually pretty damn good in the dark as well. So I can see what's behind me at any given moment, even though I got a camera. I mean, I could put a sticker across the back window to where I can't see out at all, and I'd still have perfect, unobstructed, widescreen panoramic. I've got it in the widescreen, so it's picking up more than what you would see normally look out the back, because the back window's so big, and then you got those pillars back there, you know, the bodywork going around it. Here, it's just completely unobstructed. So I can see the camera, make sure we're flashing, and I'm not talking to myself. 499. We are at 500 miles. So I'm just waiting for that to change. I might have to pull over and stop and start the car. Although I've seen people where it just changes on the fly. We're going to find out. If it doesn't change by the time I get to Turner's Corner, I'm going to shut the car off, and then we're going to let it sit for a couple minutes and start it back up. And you'll know it's in the right unrestricted mode when the red line moves all the way down to where it should be, and your yellows and oranges are not sitting there at 3,000 and 4,000. Red line should be up around 6,500. So as soon as we see that shift happen, we should be aight. Boom! There we go. So now we are in unrestricted mode. So what I'm gonna do, I'm not worried about over revving it now. I got 500 miles, and you say, well, it's only got 500, don't beat on it. Most cars don't, and most bikes don't need an extended braking period. The engineers say it's fine after 500, great. We're going up to track mode on the shift points. That'll give me a little more engine braking coming down the hill. Oh boy. The problem with track mode is it hangs there. So we're going to go back to sport shift. And I think if you're on track and you maybe just keeping the revs up that whole time, but when I backed off the throttle, it was still holding the revs there. And I don't want to necessarily just rev it unnecessarily. It's just extra wear and tear, kind of wasteful. So if I roll off the gas, I kind of want it to down, you know, shift up. But as soon as I give it gas, it's just wanting to go now. Oh, yeah. Nice. I'm going to have to do a 0 to 60 run later if I can find a place to do it. And I believe what I do for that is I put it in actual track mode, because you got your different modes here. So we'll do that. Now we're in sport. Changes the dash. And if I go up here to track mode, now we're in track mode. And if I'm at a dead stop, I hit the traction control twice, double tap it, and that sets it up for launch control. And then you just stomp on the brake and mash the pedal to the floor. It'll let the RPMs come up to about 3,500, and when the light go green, take your foot off the brake and just leave the pedal mashed and let the thing just do itself. under optimal conditions, if you do that, this is 0 to 60 in under 3-second car, which is pretty goddamn fast. So we're gonna go back to my Z mode. There's a user mode and there's a Z mode. I don't know what the differences are and why there's two. Because the Z mode, I can set up whatever I want. I can set steering, engine, and shift points, exhaust valve, and brakes. And that's all the user mode does too. The difference with Z mode is I don't have to scroll through to get it. I could just go anytime. I just drive. If you're just putzing around town going for groceries, or you're going down the highway, the default mode is touring mode. Just leave it in that. When you want to have fun, you set up Z mode for how you want, and then you can actually adjust that on the fly if you want. So if I say I want more braking, I want this, I want that, just slide it, hit OK, and keep driving. Don't do it in the middle of a turn if you're going balls to the walls. You probably need to keep both hands here and watching where you're going. But I need to find a little bit of a straightaway. Oh my. Oh, that is lively. Oh, that's never going to get old. Yeah, none of that power was there before. It was pulling power. By the time you hit 4,000, it would let you rev a little higher, but it was pulling tons of power from 4,000 up to where it would kind of force you just short shift to the next gear because it wouldn't pull that hard. It was really limited. That was just like much more so than the Mustang. There's more torque here. The Mustang's got some top end zip. You wind that Coyote motor up, it screams, and it does pull really nice up top. But kind of like a 600cc bike. Yeah, they make good power up top. If you're between 11 and 15,000 RPMs, they got some decent pull. But getting up to that point, it's nothing. It's like, and then it takes off, almost like a turbo lag. This is a different beast. The motor's got an extra 1.2 liters of displacement. It makes more torque and more horsepower as a result. Doesn't rev as high. Instead of 7,500, it's 6,500. But it's a bigger, fatter motor, and it's still putting out more power everywhere in that rev range, even if it doesn't rev as high. I want to feel this thing from a dig. I need to get somewhere. And I'm not going to do the launch control and all that stuff right now. I'll save that for... I need to find the right place to do that where I won't get a ticket or have people yelling at me. Or be in blind turns, you know. Try to be a little courteous. But I will tell you, man, the handling on this thing, we talked about earlier, if I even put that video, well, we'll see, maybe I'll cut it out. I had some video coming up the mountain talking about the car in the hand. You know what, I guess I'll throw that in there. Please don't go to the left, please don't go to the left. Damn it, go straight, go straight, go straight, yay. And then I'm gonna go here so that I can get ahead of them. Yeah, that is just fun. And now you're getting more of that motor sound. Before, because I was at low revs and not large throttle inputs, wasn't making it that loud in the cockpit. Loud outside of the truck, but not so much in here. Now I'm hearing it a lot more. But it's not obnoxious like the Mustang. So I'm leaving it in sport mode. Once I'm going up or down a mountain, what I'll probably do is then I'll switch to manual mode and use the paddles. And that way it'll keep that kind of revs from hanging. I can just put it where I want and shift when I want. And then I can use engine braking a little bit more, you know, all that kind of stuff, so I don't cook my brakes coming down the mountain. going to do launch control. I'll just do a little bit of staging, you know. I'll probably load it to like 1500 RPMs and just dump the brakes. Let's just see what, on a cold day with no prep, not in track mode, not in launch control, just like, oh, I just came up on a stoplight and there's a guy in a Dodge that wants to play, and I don't have time. Oh shit, the light's about to turn green. I don't have any time to dick around with any of the settings. What I will probably do is, before I do that, I will up it to that. So I got the higher shift points. Let's just get a quick idea what this thing can do. And then when I've got a really good place to do it, then I may do the full-on launch control and all that stuff. Alright, so there's nobody behind me. I need to get, oh, maybe up over this hill, there's a long straightaway. I need to make sure that there's no Lumpkin County police coming towards me. Or GSP. So, okay. We're going to stop real quick. Alright. 0 to 60, I'm going to get up. Alright, so that was 3.4. So that was not in full track mode. So that had traction control on. It had... I had the revs down low because I didn't put it in track mode. And I saw that there was a minivan coming up behind me, and I didn't want to really, by the time I was thinking like, oh, maybe I should do it, I was like, I don't really have time to dick around with the controls and make sure everything's set. And being that it does only have 500 miles on it, 506 now, I don't want to go too crazy, like right out of the gate, and have an issue with the transmission if it's still got to break in more and stuff. I've never had a dual clutch transmission. They're phenomenal, but I don't know if they're more fragile or they're more sensitive to break-in, so I'm just gonna, that was the biggest reason why I didn't want to do that. But if I go to manual mode, we are now in manual mode. Lightning fast shifts. I'm always curious how these engine modes work, because sometimes it's not what you think. It depends on the mindset of the person. Like a lot of times you're like, street mode is less, then you go to track and oh, that's going to be more, and then race is going to be the ultimate. Not always the case. Depends on the mindset of the company designing those electronics. Some companies like Aprilia are like, yeah, if you're on the street and you're not worried about being at the absolute, you want to be a hooligan, you just want to goof around, the fastest, snappiest throttle response on an Aprilia is street mode, or what they call sport. There is no rain or road mode on an Aprilia. There's sport mode, which is the most aggressive, like, just go. You hit the gas, boom, go. And then track kind of goes, okay, let's go. And then race, the throttle response is, all right, we're going. They all make the same horsepower, but how fast you get that hit. Because when you're on the side of a motorcycle tire, at the, if you're running a race pace and you're at the edge of what the tire can handle as far as traction goes, you don't want to and go, because that's going to be what breaks the traction loose and you're eating pavement. So smooth is fast in racing. So I'm always curious, do cars follow the same thought pattern? Because some bike makers follow Aprilia, and I think only a couple do and a lot don't. So with the car, I'm always kind of curious, like, how is this thing going to work? Am I really getting the fastest, most aggressive fun mode I think that I'm getting? So if anybody knows the answer to that question on the new C8s, let me know. All right, we're gonna go back in drive mode, track engine. I guess we're just gonna leave it. Well, you know, let's just try track brakes. Let's try track everything. But I don't like the track display. I like this display better. So we're gonna go basically track at everything other than the steering feel. All right, so we are on 129. All right, if I'm gonna leave it in auto, I think if you're going to leave it in auto, I think sport's better on the road because there's just too many slowing down. And here it's like it would just be sitting there. It wouldn't want to downshift until I was like 4,000, you know, really high RPMs going, and the motor's like. I think sport's better. The only downside to sport is it goes down into 4-cylinder mode for economy if you're not hard on the gas. But if you were going through the turns and playing, it would never be that. Your throttle position would be too high. Oh, come on. Subaru Outback. Yes, make sure you slam on the brakes for the turn. Oh, come on. You're not even going the speed limit, Chief. You're not going to roll and capsize. I promise you that Outback could go through that turn in 50 if you wanted. Alright, so radar detector on, highway most sensitivity on, and it's going to open up to 2 lanes up here. We are not going to rip up Blood Mountain. I know that will be the day I get a big fat freaking ticket, but I do want to play a little bit. So we're going to play a little bit. We'll run up the mountain, see what it looks like at the top. Maybe because there's not a lot of bikes out today, other than some Harleys, maybe the police presence won't be that much. But this is the road where everybody gets tickets. And it's because it's a really fantastic road. And every car club and every biker comes up here. Riders, sorry. Bikers are Harley guys. They're not running at a fast pace up here. But the riders are the sport bike guys. And there's guys up here that are running like freaking race pace. Just. Oh boy, does that just glide. Alright, Padre. Yeah, the Mustang's got nothing on this in the turns. Chucks in and just doesn't care. It's just like, oh, you want to go there. Whoosh. No drama, no tire squeal, no feeling squirrely. And it's a cold day on run flats. I'm going to have a little heat in the tire from coming down the other mountain. But it really... Peach. It's gold, Jerry. Gold. Alright, now just cruise and close the distance between me and them. So as soon as it's back to 2 lanes, I can just go right around them. I don't have to work hard. That is really nice. And now, see, I know the handling and the braking is there. Just from the little bit of playing with it I've been able to do. But now I've got the power when I want it, and it's interesting. So I don't think from a roll, if I was to do a roll race in this versus the Mustang, I think this would win. But back to the conversation earlier, me and my dad going back and forth about the Mustang versus it. It wouldn't win by much in a roll-on race. Because from a dig, it comes down to, can you hook up? Doesn't matter how much power you have. How much of it can you use? And from a dig, this can use pretty much all of it. And that's why with less than, just under 500 horsepower, this thing is stomping cars that make more horsepower. This weighs within 70 pounds of the Mustang. They're very close in weight. So horsepower to weight ratio favors this slightly. And on the highway with wind resistance, this will pull away, not by all that much. It's off the line that this thing kills my Mustang. Not even close. And the brakes on the Mustang were fantastic. That had much bigger rotors up front, and it had the Brembo brake package. This does not. This has got the base Corvette brake package, which are very good brakes. But they're not the Brembos. Now, granted, there's all kinds of things you can upgrade on these. Once you're rolling, it's marginally better than the Mustang. It's not that much quicker. Now, of course, if you had a Z06 or something like that. But that's not where, off a dig, this kills the Mustang. And in the turns, this kills that Mustang. Mustang would be loosey-goosey in the back right now when I'm going through these turns, and especially like coming out of a turn. I get on the gas. The Mustang would be sliding around, and the traction control would be going, dude, what are you doing? Now, in some ways, that made the Mustang feel more exciting to drive. It felt a little bit more unhinged between the way it made power and the fact that the noise of it and the fact that it was a little loosey-goosey in the back, it made it feel faster. But if I was rolling through those turns, and again, we're not setting a lap record here, but if I was rolling through some of those turns, just kind of pushing hard and getting on the gas, this was just like, oh, whatever. No tire squeal, no feeling of sliding. I didn't feel anything about to let go. Even stomping on the gas, it just went. Dug its haunches in a little bit and just went. That would have had the back end going sideways, coming out of the turn like that in the Mustang. And so, overall, with regards to speed, yeah, in a straight line, once we're rolling, if we're doing a 60-mile-an-hour roll-on, I would beat the Mustang by maybe 5-10%. It's not going to be a massive victory at all. They're too close in weight, too close in horsepower for there to be a really like, oh wow, this car got its ass kicked. It wouldn't be like that. But through the turns, absolutely. This thing would annihilate that. And from a dig, not even close. Not even close. Maybe the Mustang would catch up a little bit when it comes to braking. I see cars and I see blue lights. So there's clearly somebody has gone off-roading. So is there an accidente? Oh, they are clearing an accident. I see guys with jerseys. There's a car club. See, that's why this road I tend to not go crazy. We'll have a little bit of fun like we just did there. But honestly, yeah. See, and these people coming around the turns weren't paying attention. I make a habit of looking through the trees, especially when the leaves are down. I'm always looking through the corners. And it's probably because as a motorcyclist, you don't just look at the road right in front of your car, or in front of your bike, right? You need to, yeah, there was a bad accident up here because there's cars all stopped. They got cars stopped in both directions. Does this even have hazard lights? If I had to put on my hazards for something, I'd like to let people behind me know that, hey, there's a problem. Oh, up here. Yeah, so the button's up there. Yeah, so I don't know how long we're going to sit here. I'll just leave the camera rolling and I'll cut out. If it's boring, I'll cut it out. And try to chop this down to just maybe some smaller pieces. But, yeah, so, Dad, you were right that this is absolutely, obviously, it's the superior sports car. I still, now after driving both of them back to back, the Mustangs, especially the special editions, the power, the performance packs, the other ones, the Mach 1s, GT350s, Dark Horses, they're all legit sports cars. You're not going to change my mind on that. This is a better sports car. That much is obvious. So did a car go off? Someone driving their Corolla too fast or something like that? I see cars in the other direction starting to move. We're starting to move. Alright, so what the hell? So what we got? Someone's little Beamer? Yeah. So what happened with it? Side of the Hyundai. Yeah, not a hint of tire squeal or anything. Wait for all that traffic to go away. Anyway, all in all, fantastic car. We got past that mileage thing. Again, just a real quick impromptu, not in launch control, so no rider aids, just gave it some gas. It only went up to 1500 RPMs, got off the brake, and we did 0 to 60 in 3.4. That is already 1 second faster than the best time I've ever gotten in the Mustang. And that was under ideal conditions with hot tires, proper launch, all that stuff. That was the best I was able to get, was consistently a 4.4, 4.5. I don't think I ever saw a 3.3. So I know that in track mode, not up in the mountains at, you know, at high elevation, this is, we could be down around 3 realistically on the street. And that is just awesome. So anyway, that was a quick break-in. So we're going to go ride some more. Maybe I'll be back, maybe not. But it was good to get on the gas for the first time there. If I find an area where I can do some, you know, 0 to 60 times, we'll come back and we'll just do those as separate videos. So anyway, break-in is done. And now I can go have fun. So we'll see you guys later.